If there's one thing that Britain is not short of, it's bullets. This splendid pairing of Blackmore Vale and 92 Squadron is an extremely rare sight, and so are double headers on the main line. Bullets even come in blue these days. Indeed, one was painted red for a while. But if there's one survivor of Southern's Pacific Fleet that can be called the Flagship, then surely it's 35028 of the Merchant Navy class, the legendary Clan Line. The story of this engine revolves around a group of people who simply wouldn't let Clan Line die. They're the Merchant Navy Locomotive Preservation Society.
Each time she goes out, there's a support crew of 8 people who basically will spend 2 full working days before the day of the run getting the engine ready. That involves clearing out the smoke box and the ash pan from the previous trip, oiling the engine, attending to any mechanical problems that there may be, and then finally cleaning her so that she sparkles as you see her now.
It's not so much a fine-tooth comb, more like a fine-tooth brush. Every speck of dirt is removed, and some of the workers have been at it for 30 years.
For all of us, it's a labour of love. Yeah, we just take a lot of pride in it, a lot of satisfaction. You know, anybody would be upset on the support crew if they saw a dirty mark somewhere. They'd be up there and clean it off, as they've been doing this morning, just the final touches. We cleaned it all yesterday. It's come over from Southall last night, got a bit mucky again this morning, so we all get stuck in again. As far as I'm concerned, it's the nearest thing to a living machine. She's got her character. It's the pride, I think, the pride that when she backs onto the train in Victoria, all the people are around and you can stand back and just soak it up really and know that you were part of it and you contributed to it being there. She's a she, has her moments, a bit temperamental sometimes, but always comes up with the goods. We have a chat to her from time to time and make sure that she's happy, and she tells us if she's not. And when she's not, it usually gives us a lot of work.
These engines ceased to run in 1967. For the last 3 or 4 years of their service life, a whole group of us used to go around on the southern region, recording them, photographing them, travelling behind them. And it was fortunate that it was announced about 2 years before they actually stopped running that they were going to come to the end of their lives. And we simply decided that we didn't want to do without them. So we clubbed together and put adverts in the enthusiast press asking for donations to see if we could get enough money actually to preserve one. It was all done with the giddy innocence of youth. We had no idea what we were taking on. We had no idea what we were going to do with it if we did manage to buy it. But we persevered, and we've eventually managed to raise £2,200, which was the scrap value of the locomotive in those days, and bought it. There were, within the railway engineering authorities, enough people who were interested to see at least one Merchant Navy class preserved to be able to give us the information as to which of the 10 surviving locomotives was in the best condition. And we picked a short list of 3 engines, I think it was, of which this was actually number 2. But the one that we were going to buy in the first place got damaged and had to be cut up. So this was the second choice, but now we wouldn't part with her for the world. Nowadays, we try to do about 20 trips a year, which is about as much as it's possible for a volunteer organisation to manage. Of those, about 15 are on the Orient Express proper, and the other 5 are reserved for enthusiast outings.
Today it's a golden arrow trip around Kent. The addition of the various bits and pieces is always a source of mirth among the support crew. As well as the arrows, there's the famous headboard to attach, if it'll behave itself and slot into place, and finally those fluttering Anglo-French flags. Clan line backs out of the shed at Stewart's Lea. The Class 73 electro diesel alongside is one of the type used to drag the VSOE stock back into Victoria Station. In fact, one of the 73s will trail along behind clan line all day, but won't be used for banking assistance unless they're in trouble. The engine will need a good run at Martin Mill Bank near Dover, which pitches to 1 in 64. In steam days, a trailing load of 555 tonnes would never have been allowed single-headed over the bank. So, as clan line emerges from the London suburbs, she's heading for some tough mountain climbing. During the day, with the help of special cameras, we'll be able to follow her progress in detail, and above the racket on the footplate, to hear the commentary of her driver, Colin Kurzweil. His first task is to guide the big engine through the suburban maze.
We're taking a diversion route to the down low. So easing the regulator again, just let the train come over the top. 40 mile an hour crossover, we're only doing 30, so they have no problem with speed. 53 over the junction, I think we're spot on time. Regulator opens a little bit wider and a bit wider. Blow the whistle. They say it's murder on the Orient Express, it is for the firemen.
The reason it's murder for the firemen is the stop-go nature of their progress. Clan line is climbing steadily towards the North Downs, so Jim the fireman conjures up a full head of steam. Note how the draft sucks the coal off his shovel. But just as they get going, Colin reaches up to close the regulator on the long 1 in 95 climb to Bickley. As so often happens, they're being held up by other traffic, and soon the ribbon of steam at the valves becomes a fountain of wasted power. The injectors are already on, so there's little the crew can do except tiptoe through the station with the safety valves roaring. They're using the gradient to slow the train down and trying to judge it so that they can keep moving, hoping that the signal ahead will clear before they get there. It won't be the last time today that stragglers ahead will threaten their schedule. Fortunately, the EWS footplate crew have seen it all before and will not easily be beaten. The driver and traction inspector have got nearly 100 years of footplate experience between them, and Colin's father and great-grandfather were engine men, so Clanline is in good hands.
The EWS guys are professional railwaymen who during the rest of the week will be driving commuter trains, freight trains, anything that comes along. When they drive steam trains, they actually volunteer for it. They're still paid staff, but because it's not part of their job description now, they don't have to do it if they don't want to. And in a sense, they're as much volunteers as the Preservation Society people. They do it because they love it. One of the most satisfying things is to see how the old skills come out and are honed and perfected with every trip. One of the measures of the skills of the footplate crew is the amount of water that the locomotive uses. And on our regular runs, we've been pleased to see that every time we go out, we use a little bit less water, a little bit less each time, until eventually I think we're going to come back with more than we started with.
A sound to send a shiver down the spine at Chilham Station, where the peace is about to be shattered. The train turned left at Ashford along the Stour Valley and is now approaching its destination, Canterbury. It'll pass the little signal box at Chartham, still painted green. Pity the old slam door EMU isn't in southern green. Regulator closed, Clanline ambles into Canterbury West Station, which is straddled by a 70-lever signal box of the type that used to sit across the lines at Clapham some years ago. Today's trip with the VSOE stock involves a 3-hour stopover at Canterbury while the passengers explore the city before heading back to London via Deal and Dover. It'll be a busy afternoon for the support crew. Clanline will have to be detached from the train and reversed into the up platform for watering. John the signalman gets things organised as quickly as he can so that the stock can be tucked away in the east sidings and the engine and support crew freed for watering. The snag is that they'll have to move out of the way every few minutes to make way for a service train, so it's a race against time. Working as support crew on any mainline engine requires real commitment. and it's no exception with Clanline.
2 full days really. I send out invites. We've got about 25 people that we use for support crew. We rotate them around, a mixture from all industries. I invite them out about 3 or 4 weeks before the trip, get a party of 8 together. We then arrange to be here for a full day before the tour, really for preparation, oiling, cleaning, start all the polishing. Do the tour on the day and either get home that night or perhaps even the following morning if it's a late tour. I don't think the Health and Safety Executive would be too impressed, but I would have thought 14 to 18 hours where you're actually awake. And you don't usually get a very good night's sleep in between because you're worrying about, did we do this, did we do that, is it all going to be okay? So it's a long day.
The passengers are beginning to drift back to find their engine temporarily in the wrong platform and minus its train. The artist will need to work quickly. His picture will have to be finished later because it's time to go. News has reached them of traffic problems at Folkestone on their route back. And 40 miles away, passing through Tunbridge, is the cause of the problem. A Eurostar has failed to retract its pantograph this side of the Channel Tunnel, and a pair of 73s rescue it. Some railway observers, who should perhaps know better, are quick to amplify the problems steam engines have, but would do well to take note of scenes like this. Any train can break down. Meanwhile, back at Canterbury, Colin's fellow chauffeurs deliver his train, giving him a few minutes to consider the road ahead.
It's a nice sunny day at the moment, but there's a prospect of showers. Yeah. And you're going to be going up Martin Mill, and it's not all easy, is it?
No. We always try and think, whatever you're driving, especially on the steam, 10 or 15 miles ahead, the fire is managed so as you've got the steam when you need it and you haven't got too much when you don't need it. But what's going through my mind at the moment, if it's rainy or slippery going up Martin Mill Bank, we've got one in 67 in places. It's quite a steep bank, but hopefully we'll get a run through deal at 50 mile an hour and we should get up the top okay. Signal to look for is round the corner where the fireman will call out if the signal is off. Just looking back to make sure the train is following in a normal manner. Everybody seems happy and we're on our way. Is the train number, should be 1600 from Canterbury, but due to operating difficulties down in the Folkestone area, there's extra traffic at slight adjustment on the regulator and the... Right away, driver! fireman instructs me that the next signal is off, so we are now okay to proceed. Open the cylinder cock just for a moment. Maybe a little bit too much water in the boiler. So just open the cylinder cock so we don't carry any water over. A few rotations of the wheel, ease the regulator, shut the cylinder cock, and away we go. It is a physical job, certainly, and me being small in stature, with the arrangement of the regulator on the Merchant Navy or the bullies, the regulator goes from a pulling position to a pushing position. And me being small, I push it so far and I have to get my shoulder on it to open it right up into the roof, you know, and that's as it is. Open the regulator full, 30% cut off, speed 40 miles an hour. Jim has a full head of steam and things are looking very good.
Flashing through Deal Station after a frustrating signal stand, they're only doing 40 miles an hour, not the line speed of 50. And that missing 10 miles an hour is something they can't really afford with a towering 7-mile climb ahead of them. There are steeper banks in Britain than a 1 in 60-something, but it would be unthinkable to send a single header over them with 555 tons hanging behind the engine. Today at Martin Mill, Clan Line will be called upon to sustain a power output rarely seen since the 1960s, and even then this sort of load was specifically forbidden over Martin Mill Bank. Colin Kurzweil will later report a feeling like leaves on the line, but the camera shows something else. Weeds and grass, apparently high enough to get between wheel and rail. The engine is slipping slightly, and the cut-off is wound slowly to 55%. Will they have to call for assistance from the trailing electro-diesel? Will they hell? All the way up the bank, at full chat and with both injectors on, Bulleid's brilliant boiler continues to produce a feather of steam at the valves. You can hear the engine slip again, and Colin quickly catching it. At this critical point on the bank, just when you think they might be beaten, Clanline throws off the mantle of show pony and demonstrates British steam at its very best. Martin Mill Station means the worst is over. Soon the road will pitch down sharply into the waiting jaws of Guston Tunnel. Colin was checking with the traction inspector Dennis Donovan that there's enough water to cover the crown of the firebox when they tilt downhill. But with people of Dennis's calibre and experience aboard, it's really only a formality.
Going in the tunnel! Approaching Dover Priory, we've got a couple of tunnels to go through. That's the AWS, which got cancelled, which is an audible warning to me, and also a visual warning that we've got a quarterly tickle. 2 yellows here takes us into Dover Priory platform, which we're due through Dover Priory at 17:09, so we're about right time. Blow the whistle as we're going into the tunnel. It's all downhill here, so the locomotive is shut off.
As the train winds slowly through Dover's sharp curves, the traction inspector explains how steam services were operated 40 years ago between Deal and Dover.
Steam engines very rarely brought that load across there from Deal. 8 or 9 was their whack, their limit, and then they would pick up another 3 at Dover Priory to make their quota into London. In the summer, Deal used to become a small steam depot. So they used to have a pilot engine come on the front of heavy trains, bring the train over from Deal to Dover, come off, and then take the next one back. This here was where Dover loco steam sidings used to be there, steam depot. We're not having a rough trip round here, it's just that we're limited to 5 miles an hour.
Why is that?
Because of the curvature of the road. Get a view of the tunnel as you go up there, John. This is a very unique tunnel. This is Shakespeare Tunnel, shaped like church doors. They're single boards, interlocked by little tunnels either side of them. This is a steady old climb all the way up to Folkestone. Not as heavy as what we've done, steady. Going into Shakespeare Tunnel now.
The railway picks its way beneath the white cliffs of Dover through a series of tunnels towards Folkestone. Here, the train is completely dwarfed by the scenery, and suddenly the mighty Clanline is like a child's toy, a train set among pretend mountains. It's been a long day for the men and their machine, but Dennis is still hard at work at that fire and hasn't got time to admire the view from Folkestone Viaduct. They left Stewart's Lane several hours ago, so the fire is inevitably dirty. With a tightly timed sprint up the main line ahead of them, and only a brief water stop at Paddock Wood, the Bulled's rocking grate comes into its own. The two engine men compare watches, and Dennis's expression speaks volumes. They've done very well indeed to have kept time. He gets on with building a Bulled fire, very deep at the back, almost blacked out under the door, with great care to build up the back corners. The doors are being opened and closed to restrict the rush of cooling air. On the easy grades of that arrow-straight track between Ashford and Tunbridge, the engine's just been strolling along and loops into Paddock Wood Station a minute early. Ironic that she should be making way for Eurostars, the cause of her problems, earlier. At least it'll give the engine men a chance to catch their breath and to relive for a moment the engine's epic conquest of Martin Mill Bank.
Yeah, we didn't get the distance for Martin Mill, so therefore we had to creep through the station, making sure the signal on the end of the platform and the advance was off, which didn't give us a very good run at the bank. And although we had a full head of steam and a full boiler of water, it's a bit of a struggle getting up the bank. And with the gales that we've had and the rain, there were a lot of leaves laying around on the track. Therefore, the engine was prone to slipping. So it mattered shutting the regulator, opening the sand, and then restarting again. But we went over the top with a full regulator and about 55% cut off. So we had a bit in hand and there was no fear of us stalling at all. But the engine coped, as usual, magnificently. And although there's an engine on the back, it never certainly crossed my mind, and I know it didn't Dennis or Don's, that we should have any assistance. But she went up there fine. And it was nice, in a way, to come up that way rather than go roaring through Deal at 50 mile an hour and go flying over the top at 40. I very much enjoyed that.
Were you at all worried though, Colin? I mean, everyone in the support coach was saying, will she, won't she, especially when she started slipping. Were you always confident you could do it?
Oh, not even a doubt in my mind that the engine was not capable of doing it. No, there's no problem at all. Not a twinge of worry one little bit. No, not at all.
It's been another textbook performance. The driver is keen to put the praise where it belongs.
If I could just thank the people that make it possible. I mean, all the support crew, the people that turn out every week to make the engine room available for us, always in immaculate condition mechanically and always highly polished, and they're always there. Whenever we stop, they're there to trim the coal, to take water, to do the oiling, all the things that we used to have to do, but it's all done for us now, and it's so easy. Do we use all the same?